In 1978, shortly after my husband Rick and I came back to Canada from London, Rick was commissioned by the BC government to do a study on dance in the province. And one of the major recommendations of that study was for the creation of a dance centre, something we imagined that might be modelled in some respects on the dance centre in London on Floral Street, which was a real hub for dance activity at that time. Shortly after that, an ad hoc committee was struck. Rick stayed on that committee and on the Site and Design Committee, which eventually chose Arthur Erickson as the architect. And I think that period spanned about 10 years. In 1995, I asked Mo Farris if he would be interested in getting involved with the Dance Centre, and at that point things were ready to move, and they did.
When you look back on it, it was very rich in intention and very rich in ideas. We had to go through a lot of before the building happened, of course, the society was functioning for practically a decade. And then we talked about having a building. It was not to be a training center. It was to be more like a factory of ideas, to encourage choreographers and give experience to dancers, particularly at the beginning phase. Arthur Erickson was the firm that was dealing with the architecture, and Noel Best was actually put in charge of it.
So we spent a lot of time at the site, looking at the site. We spent a lot of time thinking about the program and discussing this, and then just diving into a few sketches as to what it might look like. And then working very closely with Arthur he would take away the sketches and do overlays as to how we might solve these different problems. And in this particular project, how we might solve the whole issue of how we shoehorn all this stuff into this very restricted site.
Well, at the time when I came to Vancouver, having moved from a place and location such as Europe, where investments were made into the art form, into dance specifically, at quite increased levels, where arts organizations and dance organizations had buildings, I was quite amazed how in Vancouver, something so talented, a sector that was very vibrant, obviously, was so well hidden. You know, I'd go to see dance, and it was in these quite derelict spaces at times. Rehearsals were happening in really substandard locations and spaces, and I was quite amazed how so much talent was so well hidden, and you know, the question of what a building would produce and give back to a broader community, it was a no-brainer. I never asked that question, do we need the house for dance? Of course we do. We know we do now, and yeah, it's here.
I think the Dance Centre has had an enormous impact on dance in this city. It's a hub. It's a place where people come to see dance, to make dance, to interconnect with each other and with people from other disciplines. It's a real center in terms of connectivity and profile. And it's also got something to do with self-esteem. We deserve a building as luxurious and as accommodating as this one.
It's the state of the arts, you know, like you travel around the world and you basically feel like the world is at your hands. The studios are incredible, impeccable, the light is amazing and spacious, and it's an incredible experience because you feel like the space around you, which is really nice.
I come from China, you know, I tour a lot, and you know, when I work with Montreal, they're all jealous. They said, you guys so lucky to have space like Dance Centre. And even last March, just the past March, we brought Beijing Modern Dance Company come to Vancouver. So we rehearsed at Dance Centre. When they walk in, they go like, wow. You know, and then they never, I don't think, you know, we all knew that financially and dance companies, small companies, nobody have space for yourself, and even you rent a space is sometimes the space can be awful. But walking dance center, you go like, what happened in Vancouver? This is really Vancouver? In China they have a lot of companies have their own space, but no space like Vancouver, like dance center to bring the community together, and you can able to see each other and dialogue.
Like even today, you're just, like, I was just like, oh, you're just like, wow. Those days, you're just like, oh, I don't know if it's going well. I don't know if the piece is what it should be, blah, 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 blah. But then, you just run into somebody who maybe inspires you, and it's just enough for you to get through your rehearsal, or you remember, or you see someone and you remember why you're doing it in the first place. Like that's what's really nice about the feeling of interaction or exchange here. Just running to people haphazardly. It's almost like the universe giving you a little gift sometimes when you least expect it. And yeah, you hear so-and-so's music next door and you're like, oh, that sounds awesome. I have got to work on my dance kind of thing.
I mean, this building hosts everything from classical ballet to hip hop to salsa. It shows that dance is not just recreational, it's professional. Through the performances that happen downstairs in the Ferris studio, to the workshops at Dance Labs, and all the discourse that happens around the building, it's creating a renewed and also developing an audience for dance.
Confinement or huge abundance of space, or have a dancer move within a triangle or something.
It is where people go to try out ideas, to build a career, not to come particularly with a career, but to be expanded by the advantages they have by coming to this building. Not only that, but they rub shoulders with all their colleagues all the time, whereas before they weren't speaking to each other.
I strongly believe that our role as a dance facility is not to just sustain a facility that will be there for the dancers to enjoy, but a place and a space that will facilitate dialogue between dance and other disciplines like the video, like the film, like the technological part of it. Because dance has evolved so significantly over time, and it's a life form, it evolves daily, continuously, and a building as part of that resource or a tool for the dancers should be our part as the developments in the field. So I think the future is really to invest into the building so it meets those requirements and expectations.
There was a lot of to and fro over building this building. There were political obstacles and personal obstacles and money obstacles and every obstacle going. But the person who sort of led the charge was Mo Farris because of his personality. He galvanized sort of the board along with the chairman of the board who galvanized us in a different way. And we all stepped to the drummer of Mo. And the reality is that while I didn't love the idea of being browbeaten at 7 in the morning about fundraising and everything, if he hadn't done it, I don't think we would be here. And being here is a lot better than not being here.
I like being reminded that we're all in it together and that we're all just like, the only way we're going to keep going as artists, and I think as for the Dance Centre as an organization, if just we all support each other and help each other, and that's the only way the art form's going to survive.
I just have to say that Mo is one of the most wonderful people